to King 5 News in Seattle. We have a special report here. The Washington Department of Health has reported a high influx of what appears to be a flu-like illness within King County, although the exact type of pathogen is yet to be determined. So far, there are at least 120 confirmed instances of it, and patient 0 has not been identified. Its primary method of transmission is unknown. Symptoms of this illness include coughing fits, high fever, sweating, unusual sensitivity to light, and in some cases, severe headache. Several school districts have announced temporary closure to prevent students from contracting the illness. Again, both the index patient and the source of the epidemic
The following is a health bulletin from the Washington State Department of Health. This alert is being sent out to all residents in King County in regards to an intensifying epidemic of what officials hypothesize to be a modification of the flu. The highest concentration of cases are located within the Seattle metropolitan area. However, there have also been a few reports of the illness in suburban areas. It has been noted that this pathogen has been spreading unusually rapidly. To mitigate the spread, King County will have certain safety regulations imposed while officials investigate. A mandatory curfew is in effect, lasting from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following morning. In addition, citizens must maintain a proper distance from others, excluding those that live in their household. These limitations will be in effect for at least 1 week, beginning tonight. Remember to practice proper hygiene. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap and warm water to effectively combat germs after you go outside. Stay away from others if you are sick. Stay tuned to local media outlets for the latest information.
This is MSNBC with breaking news out of Seattle. Washington state health officials have noted that within the past few days, a flu-like illness has been spreading unusually fast in several different areas. King County has placed restrictions and health guidelines for the next week or two to try and prevent the pathogen from spreading farther. Health experts have sounded the alarm, noting that this has pandemic potential. If the spread is not mitigated, then it could possibly start popping up in other states and eventually other countries. Officials estimate that around 3,000 people have contracted this illness, a dramatic increase from 2 days ago, when that number was only around 100. A small number of deaths have also been reported. The Washington Department of Health and the CDC are both trying to collect samples of the pathogen to try and identify it.
Transmitted at the request of the King County Police Department Missing Persons Unit. Within the past hour, 7 people that are not connected to each other in any way were reported missing. Their identities will not be revealed. However, they were reported to have been acting strange before they disappeared. They reportedly did not respond when people would try talking to them, and looked like they had lost their sense of direction. The King County Police Department is concerned that these persons' behaviors may eventually become more hostile and pose a threat to civilian safety. If you observe anyone nearby you acting abnormally, do not approach the persons. Call 911 immediately and notify them of where you saw the person. Thank you for your cooperation.
Hello, Hello, and thank you for tuning in to King 5 News in Seattle. Conspiracy theories surrounding the new virus have started to circulate online, especially after several people were reported missing. Due to the reports saying that they were acting strange, some have theorized that these persons were affected with the virus. These theories are popular on social media platforms such as Facebook or Twitter.
They're latching onto something that tells them what they want to believe. They're latching onto something that matches their existing worldview. And it's important to these people to do that right now because of the anxiety and the uncertainty that they're facing around this.
This has led people to question whether or not the government is telling the full truth, or if this virus is really what it seems.
How many people die annually from the flu? So even if this is twice as bad, it's serious, but I'm not concerned.
However, these theories are unlikely to be true because there is no other evidence besides the missing persons that can back the claims up. Nevertheless, this virus is still very dangerous and it's spreading at an alarming rate. More school districts continue to follow the trend of closing until this epidemic subsides. Officials are strongly advising residents to avoid going to large public gathering spaces and to wash hands thoroughly each time after going outside. Much about this pathogen, including the first patient and the outbreak source, are still unknown at this time. However, that is being investigated. At this time, officials hypothesized that this virus was brought into Seattle from the influx of Thanksgiving travel across the United States. Conspiracy theorists claim that the virus was accidentally released from a lab.
What is your emergency? I need help. My roommate is sick and he just started attacking me out of nowhere. Calm down, sir. Please give me your address so I can dispatch police units. 714 Scranton Street, Unit 2. And you said your roommate was sick? Was he sick with the new illness? Yeah, I think so. I've locked myself in the bathroom, but I think he knows I'm in here. Sir? Sir, are you there? Help! He's trying to break the door! Just stay on the line with me. Please, God, help!
Hang on.
What?
Oh my God.
What's wrong?
The virus. We were totally wrong about it.
What is it?
It's nothing like the flu. Look at it.
It looks horrendous, just like Ebola, but it can't be, can it? There's no way we missed this.
Clearly we did. We've been treating this like the flu when it could be a highly contagious and deadly virus. We have to get this information out. Who knows how many people are walking around infected with an Ebola-like virus? The whole Seattle area is at risk.
Thank you for joining this emergency conference. We have conducted research on this new virus and have some urgent information to share with you. The virus, which has begun to spread rapidly across Seattle, has been collected, and scientists working with us have conducted research into its properties. Initially, we believe this virus was a flu-like virus, posing a threat to the weak and vulnerable, but initial research has shown this virus bears more similarity to the Ebola virus. Ebola viruses belong to a family of viruses known as filoviridae, which involve viruses such as the Ebola virus and the Marburg virus. Based on our Ebola research in recent years, we can conclude that the new virus is not an Ebola virus, of which there are 6, but a more distant relative, and likely fit into the category of a filovirus. This virus has now been dubbed Plaxiovirus. The virus has a similar composition to Ebola, and as such the city of Seattle and its surrounding areas should be quarantined immediately. A full military blockade will be required to ensure the virus is contained as much as possible. Once we can confirm that a suitable perimeter has been established and will not be breached, medical and research teams will be deployed to help those who are infected and collect more samples to further understand this new virus. Members of Congress have been informed and will soon prepare to begin the necessary actions. The President is also being kept up to date.
message from the Washington State Department of Health in conjunction with the Centers for Disease Control and the Washington State National Guard. Due to recent developments with the virus spreading in Seattle, the governor of Washington has decided to instate a military blockade around King County. As of now, nobody will be able to enter or leave King County without proper authorization to stop the virus from spreading outside of the county. Anyone who attempts to breach the blockade may be met with lethal force. Life within the county will retain some degree of normality. However, there are limitations being enforced. Residents will be able to go outside, and essential stores such as grocery stores or pharmacies will remain open. However, public gathering spaces such as parks or malls will be closed off to the public until further notice. This curfew is in effect indefinitely and will be lifted once it has been determined that the virus is no longer a threat to the general population. Stay tuned for further updates.
We have some exclusive information about the military blockade around Seattle established last night. Nobody can enter or leave the city, and anybody attempting to do so will be arrested or met with lethal force. This has been done to contain the virus, and emergency medical personnel will be deployed in the city shortly. However, the people of Seattle have made their opinions on the matter known, as certain individuals have been spotted attacking military personnel and using violence to bypass the blockade. On Twitter, the hashtag prisoners is trending at number 1, as a considerable number of people in Seattle make it clear that they disagree with the blockade and believe it is a breach of their human rights. We have a citizen of Seattle with us today. 28-year-old Benjamin Kane has agreed to speak with us about his opinions on the matter. Ben, how has this blockade impacted your life on a personal level?
I plan to travel out of state to visit my mother, as she's ill, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think she's got much time left. I want to spend some precious time with her, and this blockade has just completely ruined that. Why we need the military to block off the city for a flu-like virus that doesn't really kill anyone is beyond me. I think it's tyrannical.
We're getting information about a potential protest in the downtown area. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't blame them. Their freedoms are being stripped away by the government, and they have the right to protest against it. Our lives have been brought to a halt, and we're being expected to just deal with it. Never in my life did I expect that the army would hold us all at gunpoint to stay in the city. This is America, for God's sake, not Pyongyang.
Anything you want to add before we let you go?
Personally, I'm disgusted that the people in other cities aren't making a fuss about this. This whole thing is completely illegal, and we should be fighting to resist this sort of tyranny. I, for one, will be taking up arms and fighting to restore my freedoms and encourage other citizens at Seattle to pick up their weapons and fight off the oppressive.
Sorry about that, but we cannot have that on the air. I want to take the time to make it clear that we at MSNBC do not condone violence against the military, and you will be met with lethal force if you fight the military forming the blockade.
Disperse immediately. You are disturbing the general public and violating the law. Please walk in the opposite direction within 5 seconds, or we will use force. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Arms ready. They're not stopping. Fire!
The following message is transmitted at the request of the Washington State National Guard. The military forces along the established blockade around King County have been over.
Hello?
This is Randy Gray from the U.S. government, and I'm legally obliged to keep track of the blockade and how it's going. Have you had any issues so far, as well as any breaching attempts?
No. Not at all. Everything is absolutely fine down here. No worries down here, sir.
What was that?
Nothing.
Hey, are you sure everything's alright down there?
The following message is being transmitted at the request of the Portland Police Department in conjunction with the Multnomah County Emergency Management. The Portland Police Department is advising all residents to remain indoors at this time. Police are on the lookout for several wanted persons in connection with a series of killings in the Portland area. The suspects were last seen escaping from the St. John's Medical Center, located near exit 10 of Interstate 84. The suspects were described as three middle-aged men dressed in suits. They were also reported to have been acting abnormally. If you observe anyone that matches the description, notify the authorities immediately. Do not attempt to interact with the suspects, as they may be hostile towards you. This coincides with an uptick in hospitalizations in the Portland area. Hospitals have reported that many of the recent admittances seem to be very similar to each other. Most patients have had similar symptoms. 7 of these reported patients have died. This points towards the beginning of a flu epidemic in the Portland area. It is unlikely that this is the same virus that prompted the quarantine of Seattle. However, residents should remain cautious. Wash your hands each time after going outside. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze.
I'm sending you this message on behalf of Randy Grave. He was tasked with keeping up to date with the Seattle blockade, a legal requirement. However, it has come to his attention that the military in charge of the blockade have been lying and covering up their failures. The military blockade, according to our new information, was breached recently. However, when Mr. Grave checked up on this, they insisted there were no issues and nothing had occurred. It was only when cases began to rise in nearby cities that it became apparent the blockade had been breached. Their attempts to cover up their abject failure has put this nation at risk, as the virus is no longer contained. As such, the President has requested we take swift and decisive measures to restrict the spread of the virus. He plans to crack down on travel between cities and contain the virus in certain areas. The military stationed in Seattle have been dealt with, and actions to prevent further spread of this virus will soon be taken. As government officials, you should implement restrictions to prevent the virus from entering urban areas, particularly if you serve the states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. Goodbye, and good luck.
This is an urgent message from the Washington state government. Due to recent events in Seattle, government officials have been prompted to initiate health-related restrictions across the entire state. This is to prevent the highly contagious and extremely volatile virus originating in Seattle from spreading farther than it already has, as it has recently been confirmed that the military military blockade surrounding King County was breached, and thus allowed the virus to spread outside of the Seattle quarantine zone. Furthermore, recent studies by the CDC have confirmed that this virus is completely novel and far deadlier than any flu virus. Its composition is similar to that of the Ebola virus, predominant in Africa and notorious for having an extremely high mortality rate, and virologists heavily suspect that this new virus is a distant relative of the original Ebola virus. The virus type has been named Plaxiovirus, and the specific strain is being referred to as K17PXVI. Its origin and its index host are still unknown. This virus is especially dangerous due to its ability to destroy the mind of its hosts and drive them into a homicidal rage with a thirst for blood. Effective immediately, all possible methods of transportation outside of the state are now being shut down and enforced by a legion of National Guard troops. All highways that go out of state are being cut off. All flights in Washington state are now grounded until further notice. If you conspire with others and attempt to violate these laws by crossing the state border, you, along with any other accomplices, will be shot on sight. These emergency laws are meant to be taken extremely seriously. You will be considered an enemy of the state if you attempt to violate these guidelines. At this time, there is no clear time frame for when the restrictions will be lifted. Surface streets will remain open, however, all businesses or privately funded institutions will close down. All public facilities will also remain closed. You will have rations from the government delivered to your household every week, including 7 days' worth of non-perishable food, water, emergency medical supplies, and clothing. If you begin to experience symptoms of K17PXVI, call the authorities immediately, and you will be taken to a secure location, where you will be quarantined and monitored for at least 2 weeks. If your mind begins to become affected by the virus, you will be killed as a safety precaution. Failure to comply will result in dire consequences and severe legal punishment, or possibly even execution. This virus cannot be allowed to spread across the entire population. Your government thanks you for your cooperation.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States Armed Forces along with the Centers for Disease Control. Within the past 2 weeks, all states along and near the American Pacific coastline have experienced a complete surge in cases of the K17PXVI virus originating from Seattle. This virus is extremely dangerous and has the ability to take control of a host's brain, provoking a homicidal rage. Anyone who has caught the virus is to be considered as lost, and thus they should be discarded immediately. Military forces in the region are depleted due to the rapid spread of K17PXVI, and local law enforcement is not equipped to deal with this. Due to the circumstances, the Department of Defense has enacted an emergency protocol reserved for this type of situation. Under this directive, martial law will be declared in the following states: Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. Residents in major cities in these states are advised to evacuate immediately, as military forces will be conducting a full sweep of largely populated areas, killing anyone they see in order to slow down the spread of K17PXVI. Do not use highways for travel. Highways must be kept open in order to ensure efficient travel for armed forces. An additional alert will be sent out providing updates on the locations of government-sanctioned shelters. Keep in mind these shelters have limited capacity, so not everyone will be able to seek refuge there. Reported onset symptoms of K17PXVI include, but are not limited to, violent coughing fits, chills, sweating, bloodshot eyes, an extremely painful burning sensation in the head or stomach, headaches, vomiting blood, and slurred speech. If someone you know is showing even one of these symptoms, leave them immediately. They are as good as dead. Do not be sentimental, as they will eventually be consumed by this virus and kill you. Remain vigilant, and remain safe at all costs.
Within the past few weeks, a new virus, by the name of K17PXVI, emerged from Seattle. The pathogen has completely puzzled scientists, especially with its apparent ability to infect a person's brain and provoke a homicidal rage state. The method of transmission has not been confirmed, though it is likely that this virus is airborne because of its rapid spread across the entire western region. The pandemic has since caused mass devastation to the West Coast. Military forces are currently in retreat and cities are in complete disarray. It has become apparent to the Department of Defense and the CDC that this virus cannot be stopped from overtaking the entire western region, and data from health institutions projects that this virus will wipe out over 75% of the human population should it start spreading globally. Due to the circumstances, the President has approved drastic measures to stop the virus from entering other countries, and the eastern United States. Effective immediately, the military will cease all operations in states west of the Mississippi River. The United States has forfeited its government jurisdiction in the West. This may seem like a harsh decision, but it was made to protect the rest of humanity from such a deadly disease. Refugees from the western states will not be accepted. Electricity and gas will be cut off indefinitely. God bless America, and remember, you are all dying for the greater good of the human race.
This is an emergency message. Health Canada has authorized this emergency message. It has become apparent that the virus spreading rapidly in the United States has crossed into Canada. When this first occurred is not known, but cases have been detected in Vancouver and Calgary. The virus, known as K17PXVI, colloquially known as the Plexia virus, is a distant relative of the Ebola virus.
Ceci est un message d'urgence. Santé Canada a autorisé ce message d'urgence. Il est devenu évident que le virus qui sévit aux États-Unis est entré au Canada. On ne sait pas quand cela s'est produit pour la première fois, mais des cas ont été détectés à Vancouver et à Calgary. Le virus, connu sous le nom de K17PXV, familièrement connu sous le nom de virus de la Plexia, est un parent éloigné du virus Ebola.
Furthermore, the virus has a unique ability to bypass the immune system and hijack the brain, causing a violent and bloodthirsty rage. The onset for the virus has not been identified yet. Common symptoms include fever, diarrhea, vomiting, muscle fatigue, abdominal pain and extreme thirst.
Cependant, le virus a une capacité unique à contourner le système immunitaire et à détourner le cerveau, provoquant une rage violente et sanguinaire. L'apparition du virus n'a pas encore été identifiée. Les symptômes courants comprennent fièvre, diarrhée, vomissement, fatigue musculaire, douleur abdominale et soif extrême.
If anyone you know is showing these symptoms, keep away from them and call 1-886-418-9212 and inform them of your location. A member of our pandemic team will arrive and handle the situation. If you are showing these symptoms, keep away from others. Phone the same number and inform them of your situation. Our pandemic team will deal with you.
Si quelqu'un que vous connaissez présente ces symptômes, éloignez-vous d'eux et appelez le 1-886-418-9212 et informez-les de votre emplacement. Un membre de notre équipe pandémie arrivera et s'occupera de la situation. Si vous présentez ces symptômes, éloignez-vous des autres. Téléphonez au même numéro et informez-les de votre situation. Notre équipe pandémie s'occupera de vous.
Around 2,200 cases have been reported in Vancouver and 900 in Calgary. Smaller, more rural areas closer to the border with Washington State and the USA have also reported cases. If you wish to check if your area or an area you live near has reported cases of Plexia virus, go to www.healthcanada.ca/Plexia-map.
Environ 200 cas ont été signalés à Vancouver et 900 à Calgary. Des zones plus petites et plus rurales plus proches de la frontière avec l'État de Washington aux États-Unis ont également signalé des cas. Si vous souhaitez vérifier si votre région ou une région que vous vivez à proximité a signalé des cas de virus de la Plexia, rendez-vous sur www.healthcanada.ca/Plexia-map.
The cities of Vancouver and Calgary are now under lockdown. Nobody will be allowed to enter or leave for their protection. The Canadian borders are closed for an indefinite period. The virus has caused such chaos in the western USA that they have surrendered their control of the area in order to protect the eastern US. This virus is serious and extremely deadly. Stay alert, stay aware, and stay safe.
Les villes de Vancouver et de Calgary sont maintenant verrouillées. Personne ne sera autorisé à entrer ou à sortir pour sa protection. Les frontières canadiennes sont fermées pour une durée indéterminée. Le virus a provoqué un tel chaos dans l'ouest des États-Unis qu'ils ont abandonné le contrôle de la région afin de protéger les des États-Unis. Ce virus est grave et extrêmement mortel. Restez vigilants et restez en sécurité.
This emergency meeting was called due to a rapidly intensifying outbreak of a novel virus that has puzzled scientists in the western United States. This virus, officially called K17-PXVI, is a distant relative of the Ebola virus, and it can somehow suppress a person's immune system and take control of their brain, forcing them into an aggressive, homicidal state. The outbreak has raised concerns across the world as the United States Armed Forces, one of the largest militaries in the world, continues to deteriorate at an alarming rate. Several members of the Assembly have come forth with a proposal, cutting off all North American countries from the rest of the world to prevent a global outbreak of K17-PXVI. Several large countries have voiced their support and are willing to use their own militaries for this initiative. We will now vote on this proposal. Shall more than 2/3 of the Assembly vote in favor of this? It will be passed.
179 people have voted in favor of this, and 14 have voted against this. This motion passes.
This is a broadcast from the BBC. Public Health England has informed us that the American virus has reached the United Kingdom. The virus, known as Plaxia virus, is very devastating and deadly. The virus seizes control of the brain and incites a bloodthirsty rage. All infected persons will eventually become mindless and aggressive, relentlessly attacking any living thing they encounter. Cases have begun to appear around West London, near Heathrow Airport, and in the cities of Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Bristol, and Birmingham. In response, the government have established a Plaxia virus task force, and cases can now be reported at www.nhs.co.uk/report-cases. We will send in quarantine teams to handle the situation, and your area will be placed under temporary lockdown. The cities previously mentioned are locked down for an indefinite period. All businesses are ordered to close until further notice. The government are preparing to deploy the armed forces in these cities to supply the people with rations and keep the peace. Symptoms of the virus are as follows: sweating, fever, muscle fatigue, shortness of breath, high body temperature and extreme thirst. If you or someone you know are showing these symptoms, call 011849604475 and inform them of your location, your condition and if you have been in contact with others. Our Plaxia virus task force will handle the situation. This virus has brought the USA to its knees, and the government are putting harsh and swift measures in place to prevent the same from occurring here. The Prime Minister will speak at 7 p.m. today. Please stay calm and remain vigilant.
OP-Verzug van de Nederlandse regering wordt het volgende bericht verzonden. Het Amerikaanse Plaxia-virus, officieel K17PXVI genoemd, begint zich over Europa en in Nederland te verspreiden. DIT-virus is weer verwandt van het beruchte Ebola-virus, en als u het oploopt, is volledig functieverlies binnen 72 uur zeker. De laatste fase van DIT-virus is wanneer het de controle over de geest overneemt en iemand GEK maakt. DIT-virus verspreidt sich in de lucht, DUS trag als jeblief Gesichtsbedekking als jener Buiten gaat en vermieten auf Kontakt met anderen Buiten je huishouden. Alle niet essentiële zakelijke en particulier gefinancierde instellingen zullen tot na de order met onmiddellijke ingang gesloten worden. Volledige uitschakeling is nu van kracht. We begrijpen dat DIT missie hard is, maar het is in het belang van ons land en de rest van de mensheid. Als u symptomen van Plaxia-virus heeft, belden onmiddellijk de autoriteiten en plaats u zelf in quarantaine. U wordt afgehandeld, het niet naleven van deze regels heeft de dood tot gevolg. Bedankt voor uw medewerking.
The following message is being transmitted at the request of the government of the Netherlands. The American Plaxia virus, officially called K17PXVI, has begun to spread across Europe and in the Netherlands. This virus is a distant relative of the notorious Ebola virus, and if you contract it, complete loss of function is certain within 72 hours. The last stage of this virus is when it takes control of the mind and drives a person insane. This virus is airborne, so please wear facial coverings when going outside and avoid close contact with others outside of your household. All non-essential business and privately funded institutions will shut down until further notice, effective immediately. A full shutdown is now in effect. We understand this may be harsh, but it is for the good of our country and the rest of humanity. If you have Plaxia virus symptoms, call authorities immediately and quarantine yourself. You will be dealt with. Failure to comply with these rules will result in death. Thank you for cooperating.
This is an emergency message from the Nigerian government. It has now come to our attention that the American virus has entered Nigeria. The virus was reported in Europe a few weeks ago after it became apparent the blockade set up around America had been too late and the virus had already crossed the Atlantic and into Europe. We believe the virus reached Africa from Europe via the Strait of Gibraltar and into this country through Morocco, Algeria and Niger. The virus, known officially as K17-PXVI and colloquially as Plaxia virus, is a deadly and distant relative of the Ebola virus. Despite this, the virus has different effects on the body. K17-PXVI is able to bypass the immune system and hijack the brain, creating a violent and bloodthirsty rage. If infected, you lose all autonomy and kill any living thing. Cases were reported in the local government areas of Zango and Bor at 7 a.m. this morning. It is now on lockdown. However, due to these areas having a population of over 100,000 people, and the amount of time the virus has been in these areas for being unknown, it is likely people infected have left these areas and traveled elsewhere. You are advised to remain in your homes and avoid contact with other people. Infection with the Plaksia virus will result in infection and loss of all autonomy. Common symptoms of Plaksia virus are sweating, fever, muscle fatigue, shortness of breath, a body temperature of around 40 degrees Celsius, and extreme thirst. If one of your family members are showing these symptoms, you must evacuate or execute them. Should they be infected, they will eventually become aggressive and viciously attack you and your family. You must execute them for the greater good of you and your loved ones. Fail to do so at your peril. The armed forces are now preparing to quarantine cities and prevent infected persons from traveling elsewhere. Be aware that this virus has brought the USA to a standstill, and should this virus begin to spread uncontrollably across Nigeria, it is likely this country will fall. Remember to stay vigilant, stay prepared, and good luck.
Please be advised, we are transmitting this message with very low power. The following message is transmitted at the request of the Australian Defence Force. The American virus K17PXVI is spreading rapidly within Australia, with cases being reported in every state. Residents in Queensland and New South Wales are advised to take extra precautions, as the highest concentration of cases are in those areas. K17PXVI is highly volatile and contagious, and it has the ability to suppress a host's immune system and take control of their brain, forcing them into a homicidal state. If anyone around you is experiencing onset symptoms of K17PXVI, terminate them immediately. Their deaths will be inevitable, and prolonging that will only create a larger threat. The Australian military is severely depleted, and resources are beginning to run out. It is advised that you remain away from cities, specifically those located in New South Wales and Queensland. Help is on the way. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We will survive.
Essa é uma mensagem do que resta do governo brasileiro. O Plaksia vírus destruiu esse país. Depois de entrar no país pelos aeroportos do Rio de Janeiro, o vírus começou a se espalhar rapidamente por várias cidades do país, pois as péssimas condições de vida e higiene nesse país eram as condições ideais para a propagação do vírus. O vírus da Plaksia incita uma fúria homicida na pessoa infectada em grande número. Os infectados são quase impossíveis de combater. Nossos militares foram completamente sobrecarregados e, desde então, o caos se instalou no Brasil. A infraestrutura está completamente destruída e estima-se que cerca de 95 milhões de pessoas já tenham morrido. O governo entrou em colapso. O presidente faleceu. É aconselhável evitar grandes centros populacionais. Onde houver um grande número de pessoas, haverá um grande número de infectados. Viaje para a região nordeste do Brasil, na Amazônia. A área é rural e pequenos grupos de sobreviventes humanos devem ser capazes de viajar para as profundezas da floresta tropical e construir um assentamento lá. Esta é a transmissão final. O Brasil não existe mais. Boa sorte a todos e adeus.
following message is being transmitted at the request of the United States government. Emergency programming has been interrupted to bring you this message. K17PXVI has intensified. Cases are now being reported in every part of the world, and many countries have collapsed due to extreme outbreaks. The United Nations blockade has completely fallen through. Out of the 300 million people that lived in the United States, only 29 million remain official citizens of this country. The rest have either succumbed to the Plaxia virus or they have been cut off for the good of our nation. Anyone who contracts the virus will almost certainly become animalistic and homicidal. All remaining residents of the United States are strongly advised to remain indoors at this time. Seal all entrances to the outside to minimize the chance of the Plaxia virus particles getting inside of your house. The outside environment is extremely unsafe at the moment, and if you remain outside for more than 25 minutes without any sort of protection, you will contract K17PXVI. Make sure you have weapons on standby to protect yourself, such as knives, baseball bats, or guns. The CDC is still trying to figure out how this virus can circumvent the immune system and kill a person, and they are also trying to find a way to prevent that, though it is not guaranteed that a solution will be found. Do not call 911 unless you have a life-threatening medical emergency. Please keep in mind that emergency services are severely understaffed due to the pandemic, and you may not receive a response. Do not rely on law enforcement or military forces for protection. We are currently devising a plan to hopefully provide aid to all remaining citizens of the United States. Please remain tuned.
America, or for that matter, anyone who's left in the world. You know, I can't help but feel responsible for unleashing this beast into humanity and, well, our inevitable extinction. I've been in this bunker, hell, I don't even know where it is, since we cut off the western states, so a while, but not really. I mean, deep down I knew America was screwed from the beginning, but I had hopes that the rest of the world could go on. Clearly, I was wrong. I just looked at a projection based off of current data. It estimates that, at this rate, 1 in 3 people across the world will get the virus and die. At least. And, you know, we could have stopped it earlier, but now it's too late. And, well, again, I blame myself. Perhaps this was the awakening that we needed, that we as humans weren't invincible and that our arrogance convinced us otherwise. So this will be my final message as President of the United States, or just my final message ever. Hopefully one day society will be rebuilt. Thank you, and goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the worst has unfortunately come to pass. It's officially fallen at the hands of K17PXVI, as will the rest of the world. Much of the federal government has ceased functioning, and the president has been confirmed dead. The pandemic has beat us. Cases are continuing to rise, and more countries continue to collapse. Society's end is inevitable. Earth will transform into a hellish planet unsuitable for all life. As such, you will no longer be able to rely on the government for protection or necessities.